Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Phoenix, watching the stars through the main viewing screen. His hands rested on the command chair as he studied the data flowing across the monitors. Something was wrong in the Andromeda sector. Ships had been disappearing, and the hyperspace lanes were acting strange. "Captain, we're getting those weird energy readings again," said communications specialist Tony Garcia from his station. His voice carried a note of concern that made everyone on the bridge look up. Chief Engineer Lisa Carter turned from her console. "The patterns are getting stronger. Whatever is out there, it's big. Really big." Jake nodded slowly. The Terran Federation had sent the Phoenix to investigate after 3 cargo ships vanished without a trace. The only clue was the strange energy signatures that seemed to bend space itself. No one had ever seen anything like it. "How far out are we, Ryan?" Jake asked his navigation officer. Ryan Brooks checked his instruments. 2 hours until we reach the source of the readings, Captain. But sir, I'm seeing something on the long-range sensors that doesn't make sense. Put it on screen. The viewing screen flickered and showed a section of space that looked empty at first glance. But as the sensors focused, something became visible. It was huge, dark, and seemed to swallow the light around it. Stars that should have been visible behind it were simply gone. Dr. Amanda Stone, the ship's medical officer, stepped closer to the screen. "Is that what I think it is?" "If you think it's something eating stars, then yes," Lisa said quietly. "The energy readings suggest it's converting matter directly into energy. Massive amounts of energy." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years exploring space, he had never seen anything like this. The thing was bigger than most space stations, possibly bigger than some moons. And it was moving. "Tony, send a message back to Federation Command. Tell them what we found." "Use the quantum relay." "Yes, sir." Tony's fingers moved quickly over his controls. After a moment, he frowned. "Captain, the message won't go through. Something is blocking our communications." "That's impossible. The quantum relay can punch through anything." "Not this, sir. Whatever that thing is, it's interfering with quantum signals." Jake made a decision. "All right, we go in for a closer look. But we stay ready to run if things go bad. Lisa, I want all power ready to divert to engines if we need it." "Already done, Captain." The Phoenix moved forward slowly. As they got closer, the thing became clearer. It wasn't just one object. It was a collection of dark tendrils and shifting masses that seemed to flow like liquid but moved through space like it was swimming. At its center was something that hurt to look at directly. "My God," whispered Ryan. "Look at the sensor readings. It's not just eating the stars. It's eating space itself." The data showed that the creature was somehow consuming the fabric of reality around it. Space-time was being pulled into it and converted into raw energy. It was like watching a black hole, but worse. Black holes only consume the matter. This thing was consuming existence itself. "Captain, I'm picking up debris," reported Tony. "It looks like ship parts. Multiple vessels. The missing cargo ships?" "Could be, sir. But some of this debris looks old. Really old. Like it's been here for centuries." Jake stared at the screen. The thing had been here for a long time, feeding on whatever came too close. The cargo ships had just been its latest meals. "We need to get closer to gather more data," he said. "The Federation needs to know about this." "Sir, I don't think that's a good idea," Lisa warned. "The gravitational distortions around that thing are getting stronger. If we get too close, we might not be able to get away. We have to risk it. This thing could threaten every world in the sector. We need to understand what it is and how to stop it." The Phoenix crept forward. The bridge crew watched their instruments carefully, ready to retreat at the first sign of danger. But the creature seemed to ignore them. It continued its slow consumption of space around it. I'm getting some interesting readings, Dr. Stone reported from the science station. The energy patterns suggest this thing isn't from our universe. The quantum signatures are all wrong. What do you mean? I mean, it might be from another dimension. Something that slipped through from somewhere else. Jake processed this information. An interdimensional creature that ate reality itself. It sounded like something from a nightmare. Captain, Ryan called out suddenly. We have a problem. The space around us is starting to distort. We're being pulled in. Jake looked at the navigation display. The stars around them were beginning to stretch and bend. The Phoenix was caught in whatever force the creature used to feed. Full power to engines. Get us out of here. I'm trying, sir, but it's not working. The distortion is affecting our engines too. The ship shuddered as Lisa diverted every bit of power she could find to the engines. But it wasn't enough. The Phoenix was being drawn toward the creature like a leaf in a whirlpool. All hands. Brace for impact. Jake ordered over the ship's communication system. The viewing screen filled with swirling darkness as they were pulled closer to the creature. Jake could feel the ship being twisted by forces he didn't understand. The last thing he saw was a flash of light that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Then everything went black when Jake woke up. The Phoenix was floating in a space that looked nothing like where they had been. The stars were different colors, and there seemed to be floating islands of rock and metal scattered around them. They were alive, but they were definitely not in normal space anymore. The creature had taken them somewhere else. Somewhere that would change them forever. Jake opened his eyes and felt like his head was spinning. The bridge of the Phoenix looked the same, but something was different. The stars outside the viewing screen were wrong. They were too bright and came in colors he had never seen before. Captain, are you all right? Dr. Amanda Stone knelt beside his chair, checking his pulse with a medical scanner. I think so. What happened? Where are we? Lisa Carter looked up from her engineering station. Her face was pale. Captain, we're not in normal space anymore. The readings don't make sense. It's like we're inside something. Jake stood up slowly and looked around the bridge. Tony Garcia was working at his communications panel, trying different frequencies. Ryan Brooks was staring at his navigation instruments with confusion. Report, Jake ordered. Sir, I can't get any signals out, Tony said. But I'm picking up something strange. There are other ships out there. Other ships? Put them on screen. The viewing screen changed to show the space around them. Jake's mouth fell open. Floating in the strange-colored space were dozens of ships. Some looked human, but others were clearly alien. They were all different sizes and shapes, but they all had one thing in common. They looked old and damaged. Those ships have been here a long time, Ryan said quietly. Some of them look like they've been floating here for years. Jake felt a cold fear in his stomach. Are there any life signs? Dr. Stone checked her medical sensors. Yes, sir. Several of the ships still have living beings aboard. Can we communicate with them? Tony worked at his panel for several minutes. I'm getting responses from 3 ships. One seems to be speaking in mathematics. Another is using some kind of energy pattern language. The third. He paused. The third is speaking broken English. Put the English speaker through. The bridge speakers crackled, and a weak voice came through. Human ship? Can you hear us? This is Captain Ben Lewis of the cargo vessel Star Runner. We've been trapped here for 8 months. Jake grabbed the communication microphone. Captain Lewis, this is Captain Morrison of the USS Phoenix. What happened to you? That thing. The creature. It pulled us in. We tried to run, but we couldn't escape. Are you military? Can you get us out of here? We're working on it. How many other human ships are here? 3 that I know of. But there are aliens, too. Lots of them. Some have been here for years. Maybe longer. Jake looked at his crew. They were all thinking the same thing. This wasn't just a trap. It was a collection point. The creature had been pulling ships into this space for a long time. Lisa, can you figure out where we are? I'm trying, Captain. The space around us doesn't follow normal physics. It's like we're in a bubble universe. The creature must have created this place. Over the next few hours, Jake and his crew made contact with more of the trapped ships. They learned that beings from dozens of different worlds were stuck in this strange space. Some had been here for months, others for years. The most interesting contact came from a ship that looked like it was made of crystal. The beings inside called themselves Etherians. Their leader, who went by the name Zix Prime, spoke through patterns of light. Your species is new to this prison. Zix Prime communicated through Tony's translation equipment. We've been here for what you would call 3 years. The Devourer took our world first, then our ships when we tried to escape. The Devourer? Is that what you call the creature? It consumes all things. Matter, energy, even time itself. But it does not destroy. It stores. We believe this space is inside the creature. Jake felt sick. We're inside that thing? Not inside its body. Inside its mind. It keeps everything it consumes here, studying us, learning from us. Dr. Stone had been listening to the conversation. That would explain the strange physics. If this is a mental construct, then normal rules don't apply. Another voice joined the communication. This one sounded mechanical. The crystal beings speak truth. I am Unit 7 of the Forge Collective. Our analysis confirms we exist within a dimensional fold created by the entity's consciousness. Jake was talking to a robot. The Forge Collective, as they called themselves, were beings that had merged with machines long ago. They had been trapped for 2 years and had spent that time studying their prison. The entity processes information through consumption, Unit 7 explained. It does not eat for sustenance. It eats for knowledge. Every civilization it consumes adds to its understanding of the universe. The third major group they contacted was the strangest. They called themselves the Whispers and were made of pure energy. They had no physical ships, but existed as glowing clouds that floated through the space. Time moves differently here. The Whispers spoke directly into their minds. What feels like months to you is years in the real universe. The Devourer stretches time so it can study us longer. Jake felt a chill. How long have you been here? In this time, 5 years. In real time, perhaps 50. We have watched many species arrive. Few survive the knowledge of their situation. Over the following days, Jake and his crew learned more about their prison. The space was filled with the remains of hundreds of civilizations. Most had given up hope and simply waited to die. But some, like the Etherians, the Forge Collective, and the Whispers, had formed an alliance. We worked together to survive, Zix Prime explained during one of their meetings. Each species brings different knowledge. The Forge Collective understands technology. We Etherians manipulate energy. The Whispers know the secrets of consciousness. What about escape? Jake asked. Many have tried. All have failed. The Devourer's control over this space is complete, but Zix Prime paused. Your species is different. Humans adapt quickly. Perhaps together we can find a way. Lisa had been studying the strange physics of their prison. Captain, I think I understand what's happening. The creature isn't just storing us. It's changing us. The longer we stay here, the more we adapt to this environment. What kind of changes? I'm not sure yet, but I can feel something happening. My understanding of engineering is expanding. I can see connections I never saw before. Dr. Stone nodded. I've noticed it too. My medical knowledge is growing. It's like this place is enhancing our abilities. Jake looked at his crew and then at the alien ships floating around them. They were trapped, possibly for years. But maybe that wasn't entirely a bad thing. If this place could make them stronger, smarter, more capable, then maybe they could eventually find a way out. And when they did, they would return to the real universe changed. They would be ready to face the Devourer as equals, not as helpless prey. The long journey was just beginning. 3 months had passed since the Phoenix arrived in the strange space. Jake could feel changes happening to his body and mind every day. He could think faster now, and sometimes he knew things without being told. It was like the space itself was teaching him. "Captain, you need to see this," Lisa called from the engineering section. She had been working with Unit 7 from the Forge Collective, learning how their machine technology worked. Jake walked down to engineering and stopped in surprise. Lisa was working on a piece of equipment, but she wasn't using tools. Her hands were glowing with a soft blue light, and she was reshaping metal just by touching it. "How are you doing that?" he asked. Lisa looked at her hands with wonder. "I don't know. It started yesterday. I can feel the structure of metal and electronics. I can change them just by thinking about it." Unit 7's mechanical voice came from beside her. "The human adapts quickly. In 3 months, she has learned what took our species centuries to develop." Dr. Stone appeared in the doorway. "Captain, I need to examine the crew. The changes are accelerating." Over the next few hours, Amanda checked every member of the Phoenix crew. What she found amazed her. Everyone was changing, but in different ways. Ryan Brooks could now see space in ways that shouldn't be possible. When he looked at his navigation screens, he could see not just where they were, but where they could be. He understood dimensions that had no names. "I can see paths through space that don't exist yet," he told Jake. "It's like looking at a map of possibilities." Tony Garcia had developed an even stranger ability. He could communicate directly with the energy patterns that filled their prison. He no longer needed his equipment to talk to the other ships. "The whispers taught me," he explained. "Communication isn't just about words. It's about connecting minds directly." Dr. Stone's own changes were the most dramatic. She could sense the health and emotions of everyone around her. More than that, she could heal injuries just by touching people. "I healed Captain Lewis's broken arm yesterday," she told Jake, "just by placing my hand on it." The injury disappeared in minutes. Jake was changing too, though his transformation was different. He was becoming more aware of everything around him. He could sense the thoughts and feelings of his crew. Sometimes, he could even feel the presence of the Devourer itself. "It's not evil," he told his senior staff during one of their meetings. "The creature isn't trying to hurt us. It's trying to understand us." "What do you mean?" Lisa asked. "I can feel its curiosity. It's ancient, older than our sun. It has seen civilizations rise and fall for millions of years. It collects us because it wants to learn how life thinks and feels." The alliance with the alien species grew stronger as the months passed. The Etherians taught the humans how to work with energy in new ways. Zix Prime showed them how to grow crystal structures that could store information and power. "Your species learns faster than any we have encountered," Zix Prime told Jake during one of their meetings. "In 6 months, you have mastered techniques that took us decades." The Forge Collective shared their knowledge of merging organic life with machines. Lisa worked closely with Unit 7 to understand how consciousness could flow between biological and artificial systems. "The boundary between life and machine is not real," Unit 7 explained. "All consciousness is information. Information can exist in any form." The Whispers were the most helpful teachers. They had been energy beings for so long that they understood consciousness better than anyone. They taught the humans how to expand their minds beyond the limits of their bodies. "You are becoming more than human," the whispers spoke into their minds. "But you remain human at your core. This makes you special." As the first year passed, the Phoenix itself began to change. Lisa and her engineering team, working with knowledge from all the alien species, started rebuilding the ship. They grew crystal matrices through the hull that could store energy and information. They merged organic and mechanical systems in ways that shouldn't work but did. The ship's engines were replaced with something that could tap into the strange energy of their prison. The weapon systems were upgraded with technology that could affect multiple dimensions at once. The shields became partially organic, able to adapt to different types of attacks. "She's not just a ship anymore," Lisa told Jake as they stood on the transformed bridge. "She's becoming alive." Ryan had integrated himself so completely with the navigation systems that he could pilot the ship with his thoughts. Tony no longer needed communication equipment because he could project his voice directly into space. Dr. Stone had connected the medical bay to her own enhanced senses, allowing her to monitor the health of everyone on the ship at all times. Jake found that he could sense the ship's needs and desires. The Phoenix had developed its own personality, shaped by the consciousness of its crew and the alien technologies they had integrated. "We're all connected now," he realized. "The ship, the crew, even our alien friends. We're becoming something new." The second year brought even more changes. The humans could now survive in space without suits for short periods. They could communicate across vast distances without technology. They could see and understand things that would have been impossible before. But the most important change was in how they thought. They were no longer just human. They were human plus everything they had learned from the other species. They kept their human emotions and values, but they had gained wisdom and abilities from across the galaxy. "We're ready," Jake told his crew as they gathered on the bridge at the end of the second year. "Not ready to escape, but ready to understand why we're here." It was then that Jake felt the presence of the Devourer more clearly than ever before. The ancient creature was watching them, studying their transformation with something that felt like pride. For the first time since their capture, Jake tried to communicate directly with their captor. He opened his enhanced mind and projected a simple message: "We want to understand." The response came back immediately, filling his consciousness with images and emotions that were almost too vast to comprehend. But he understood the basic message. The Devourer was not just collecting species randomly. It was preparing for something that threatened not just individual worlds or civilizations, but existence itself. Jake shared what he had learned with his crew and their alien allies. The knowledge changed everything. They were not prisoners waiting for escape. They were students being prepared for a test that would determine the fate of the universe. The real journey was about to begin. Jake stood in the center of what used to be the Phoenix's bridge. The room had changed completely over the past 3 years. Crystal formations grew from the walls, pulsing with soft light. Organic tubes carried information and energy throughout the ship. The boundary between technology and life had disappeared. "Captain, I'm receiving something," Tony said, though he no longer used the communication equipment. His voice came from everywhere at once, carried by the ship's living systems. "What is it?" "The Devourer wants to speak with you directly. Not just images this time. Real communication." Jake had been expecting this. Over the past months, he had felt the ancient creature's attention focused on him more and more. He was ready. "Put me through." The transformed bridge faded around him, and Jake found himself floating in a space filled with swirling colors and half-formed shapes. In front of him, something vast and intelligent took shape. It wasn't the dark, terrifying presence he had expected. Instead, it felt old and tired, but also determined. Human Captain. The Devourer's voice came from everywhere and nowhere. You have learned much in your time here. We've learned what you wanted us to learn, Jake replied. But we still don't understand why. Then it is time for you to know the truth. The space around them changed, showing Jake images of the universe as the Devourer saw it. Galaxies spinning through space, stars being born and dying, civilizations rising and falling. But there was something else. Something wrong. What am I looking at? The end of everything, the Devourer said sadly. There's something coming. Something that makes me seem small and harmless. It is called the silence. Jake watched as the images showed him areas of space that were simply empty. Not empty like vacuum, but empty like they had never existed at all. Stars, planets, entire solar systems were just gone, leaving nothing behind. It doesn't destroy, the Devourer explained. Destruction leaves traces, memories, effects. The silence erases. When it passes through a place, that place never was. The people who lived there never existed. The stars that shone there never burned. That's impossible. I thought so too, until I saw it happen. I watched as entire civilizations vanished from reality. Not just their bodies, but their history, their influence, their very concept of existing. The universe forgot they ever were. Jake felt a cold fear that went deeper than anything he had ever experienced. How do you fight something like that? I don't know if you can fight it. I have been trying to find a way for millions of years. That is why I collect civilizations. I preserve them here, in this space outside normal reality, where the silence cannot reach. The images changed again, showing Jake the inside of the pocket dimension. He could see all the ships, all the species, all the knowledge that the Devourer had gathered over countless ages. You're building an ark, Jake realized. Yes, when the silence finally reaches this part of the universe, something will survive. The knowledge and experience of 10,000 civilizations will continue to exist. But that's not enough, is it? You wouldn't be talking to me if you thought hiding was the only answer. The Devourer's presence grew more intense. You are correct. I have been searching for something more. A way to not just survive the silence, but to stop it. Your species may be the key. What makes humans special? You adapt. Other species reach a certain level of development and then stay there for thousands of years. You have been here for 3 years and have already surpassed civilizations that took centuries to reach their peak. More importantly, you maintain your essential nature while changing everything else. Jake began to understand. You think we can change enough to fight the silence, but stay human enough to want to. Exactly. The Etherians became beings of pure energy, but they lost their connection to physical reality. The Forge Collective merged with machines, but they forgot what it means to feel. The Whispers transcended their bodies, but they can no longer act in the physical world. And us? You become more than you were, but you remain who you are. You gain the abilities of gods while keeping the hearts of mortals. That combination may be what is needed to face the silence. The space around them shifted again, showing Jake his own crew. He could see how they had changed over the past 3 years. Lisa could reshape matter with her thoughts, but she still laughed at Ryan's bad jokes. Tony could communicate across dimensions, but he still worried about his family back on Earth. Dr. Stone could heal with a touch, but she still cried when someone was hurt. The silence has never faced a species like yours, the Devourer continued. It erases civilizations by removing their desire to exist. It makes them forget why they wanted to live in the first place. But your species, you fight for things that have nothing to do with logic or survival. What do you mean? You fight for love, for friendship, for the idea that existence is better than non-existence, even when existence is painful. The silence cannot erase emotions it does not understand. Jake saw the plan now. You want us to go back, to warn the galaxy and prepare them. More than that, I want you to lead them. Your crew has learned everything my collected civilizations can teach. Your ship has been rebuilt with technology from across the galaxy. You are ready to return to normal space as something new. What about you? What about all the others trapped here? We will remain as backup. If you fail, if the silence proves too strong, then at least some memory of the universe will survive here. But if you succeed, if we succeed, then everyone can go home. Yes, the prison becomes a sanctuary by choice, not by force. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. His crew of 847 humans had become something unprecedented in the galaxy's history. They had the knowledge of 1,000 species, the technology of advanced civilizations, and the power to reshape reality itself. But they were still human at their core. How long do we have? The silence moves slowly, but it is already at the edge of your galaxy. Perhaps 50 years before it reaches Earth, maybe less. That's not much time to prepare an entire galaxy. No, but it is more time than any other civilization has ever had. And you have advantages they did not. The vision began to fade, and Jake found himself back on the Phoenix's bridge. His crew was waiting for him, and he could feel their enhanced minds touching his, sharing his knowledge of what was coming. So, Lisa said quietly, we're going home to start a war against something that can erase us from existence. That's about right, Jake replied. Ryan checked his transformed navigation systems. I can see the path back to normal space. The Devourer is opening a way for us. Then let's go, Dr. Stone said. Earth needs to know what's coming. Jake looked around at his crew, his ship, and the alien allies who had taught them so much. They were ready, not just to go home, but to save the universe itself. The real test was about to begin. The Phoenix emerged from the dimensional fold near Titan Station like a ghost becoming real. The ship that appeared was nothing like the one that had vanished 11 years ago. Its hull flowed like liquid metal, covered in crystal formations that pulsed with inner light. Energy patterns danced across its surface in colors that had no names. Admiral Helen Rodriguez was drinking coffee in her office when the alert started screaming. She rushed to the command center, where confused technicians were staring at their screens. Admiral, we have an unknown vessel appearing near Titan Station, reported Lieutenant Colonel Dan Foster. It's not responding to our identification requests. Helen looked at the main screen. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. It seemed to exist partially in normal space and partially somewhere else. Her sensors couldn't get a clear reading on it. Size and capabilities? That's the problem, ma'am. Our instruments can't measure it properly. It's there, but it's also not there. Then a voice came through the communication system. A voice Helen recognized but couldn't believe. Titan Station, this is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Phoenix, requesting permission to dock. Helen's coffee mug fell from her hand and shattered on the floor. That's impossible. The Phoenix was lost 11 years ago. Admiral Rodriguez, this is Jake. I know it's hard to believe, but we're home. Helen grabbed a communication microphone with shaking hands. Jake, is it really you? It's me, Helen. We have a lot to talk about, and not much time to do it. The docking procedure was unlike anything Titan Station had ever handled. The Phoenix didn't use normal docking clamps. Instead, it seemed to flow into the station's docking bay like water, reshaping itself to fit perfectly. The station's engineers watched in amazement as the ship's hull became transparent, showing the people inside. Jake walked off his transformed ship, and Helen barely recognized him. He looked the same but different. His eyes held depths that hadn't been there before, and when he moved, space seemed to bend slightly around him. Jake, what happened to you? We found what we were looking for. And it found us. He looked around at the familiar station corridors. Alan, we need to talk to the Federation Council immediately. The galaxy is in danger. The debriefing took place in the highest security room Titan Station had. Jake sat across from Helen and 5 other admirals, trying to explain 11 years in a few hours. The creature we encountered calls itself the Devourer, Jake began. But it's not what we thought. It's been collecting civilizations to save them from something worse. Admiral Charles Parker leaned forward. What could be worse than a creature that eats solar systems? Something called the Silence. It doesn't just destroy things. It erases them from existence. Like they never were. The admirals looked at each other with confusion and disbelief. Helen studied Jake's face. She had known him for 20 years, and she could tell he was telling the truth. How do we fight something like that? She asked. We prepare. We learn. We become something more than we are. Jake gestured toward the window where the Phoenix was visible in the docking bay. My crew and ship are proof that it's possible. Over the following days, Jake demonstrated what he meant. Lisa Carter walked into Federation engineering and solved problems that had puzzled their best scientists for years. She could reshape metal and circuits just by touching them. Ryan Brooks showed the navigation department star charts that included dimensions they had never known existed. He could plot courses through space. That cut travel time in half. Tony Garcia communicated with alien species across the galaxy without using any equipment. Dr. Stone healed injuries that should have taken months to recover from. They're still human, Helen told the Federation Council during an emergency session. But they're human with abilities that seem impossible. The hardest part was convincing the Council that the threat was real. Earth had been at peace for decades. The idea of something that could erase entire civilizations from existence was difficult to accept. Everything changed when the Phoenix detected the first signs of the Silence at the galaxy's edge. Jake and his crew could sense things that normal instruments couldn't detect. They felt the wrongness spreading through space like a disease. It started, Jake told the emergency session of the Federation Council. The Silence has entered our galaxy. We have maybe 40 years before it reaches Earth. The room erupted in panic and argument. Some council members wanted to flee to other galaxies. Others demanded proof. A few suggested surrendering immediately. Jake stood up, and the room fell silent. Something about his presence commanded attention in a way that couldn't be ignored. Running won't work. The Silence exists in all realities. Surrendering won't work either. You can't surrender to something that erases the concept of your existence. He looked around the room. But we can fight it. We can win. How? Demanded Council President Maria Santos. By doing what humans do best. We adapt. We learn. We become something the universe has never seen before. The transformation of humanity began immediately. Jake and his crew shared everything they had learned. The Federation started building new ships based on the Phoenix's hybrid design. They established training centers where humans could learn to expand their abilities. Lisa worked with the best engineers in the Federation to create ships that were part machine, part living organism. Ryan trained navigators to see space in new ways. Tony taught communication specialists to reach across dimensions. Dr. Stone showed medical officers how to heal with their minds as well as their hands. But the most important thing they shared was hope. The crew of the Phoenix had spent 11 years trapped in an impossible situation, and they had not only survived but become stronger. They proved that humans could face any challenge and find a way to overcome it. Years passed. The Federation fleet grew. Humans developed abilities that their ancestors would have called magic. Ships that thought and felt and dreamed sailed through space. Crews that could reshape reality with their will protected worlds across the galaxy. Jake stood on the bridge of the Phoenix. now the flagship of humanity's defense fleet. Through the viewing screen, he could see 100 ships like his own. Each one was crewed by humans who had learned to be more than human while staying true to what made them human. In the distance, space flickered. The silence was coming, just as the Devourer had warned. But humanity was ready. They had become something the universe had never seen before, a species that could change everything about themselves, except their refusal to give up. All ships. "This is Admiral Morrison," Jake said into the communication system that now connected every human mind in the fleet. "Today we fight not just for our lives, but for the right of existence itself to continue." The final battle for the universe was about to begin, and humanity would lead the charge.